things. But today, let's final exam prep. Yay, final exam prep. So I wrote a lot of stuff on why I do my final exam the way I do it. But here's a summary of what's going on. If you take nothing from this class, I really want you to question the world around you. That would be my biggest hope as a good instructor, for you to be able to question everything. Never accept a fact just because someone tells you it's true. I want you to look beyond what people are saying and try to verify that, not from one source, but from multiple sources that are reputable, right? That's what you did in your midterm, is examine what makes a source good or bad. So I hope you do that with everything, not just research papers, but everything everyone tells you. Be critical thinkers. Go out into the world and question. That is your job henceforth. So in the final exam, it's the essence of this idea. What I want you to be able to do is make thesis statements that do not violate any of the rules of making thesis statements, my rules, right? But they are the rules, I think, of being good people too. It's a thesis statements that avoid fallacies and thesis statements that are fair, and they don't rely on your preference or your beliefs alone, because not everyone has your beliefs or your preference. And the point of living in a world as a good person, living in the world as a good person, is to respect other people and realize you might be wrong, right? Nothing is all black and white. The world is shades of gray, and if anyone tells you anything different, they are lying and probably trying to sell you something. Run. So, if you take nothing from this class, question the world around you, and before you propose a thesis, which is really just an idea, before you propose a thesis, you make sure you are being respectful in doing it by avoiding fallacies and the other rules we've discussed, and we're going to discuss in just a moment. So for the final exam, you will be revising poor thesis statements. Now, these are actual student thesis statements throughout the years that students have submitted to me, and they needed some revision. So each of these will have between 2 and 4 things wrong. When I say that, they will be quite obvious. When I say that, it's not meant to scare you or be hidden what's wrong with it. If you memorize the fallacies and you understand what I'm looking for as far as the rules, you will have no problem with this final exam, and you'll be able to recognize when others are headed down the wrong path. In the real world, your professors usually don't tell you if your thesis statement is horrible. What happens is you go forward with it, and you get to the end of the semester, and you get a bad grade. And you get a bad grade because you either had too much evidence that was disorganized, or you don't have any evidence at all. You get a bad grade because a thesis statement relied solely on maybe your belief system or your preference, and you can't find proof, or because maybe it lives in the future. So all these things make for bad statements, and you don't know you're going down a bad road unless you get to the end and you get the grade, usually. But it's my job to tell you what that bad road looks like, and it's your job to remember. So that's what we're going to attempt to drill home in this final exam, and hopefully it sticks with you after your awesome summer of fun-filled sunny days. Hopefully it sticks with you, if nothing else, how to make a good and bad thesis statement and recognize when others are kind of, not doing good. So let's start this PowerPoint. My face is going to be in the way. My face is going to be in the way. The good and the bad of making thesis statements. Let me exit out of here. There. Now you can see it a little bit better. No, you can't. Well. Okay. The good and the bad of making thesis statements. So you've learned all these things are good when doing a good job making thesis statements, and all these things are bad. For your final exam, not every row will be included. So this first one is interesting to you. It's not going to be included in your final. That's because, we don't know. We're going to assume all the thesis statements I give you, the bad ones, are interesting. But you do have to decide whether or not the sample thesis statements I give you are argumentative, meaning, is it an actual debate? The sun is in the sky. Yeah, no longer a debate. You missed the boat on that one. That was like in the 1500s, and a couple people disagreed with that. So they got in trouble, for that. But that's no longer a debate. Yes, the sun is in the sky and the earth revolves around the sun. The sun does not revolve around the earth. The end. That's over. So you have to tell if it's actually a debate. Is it specific and manageable? So a lot of the sample thesis statements I give you will be too big. It'll be like these giant statements that no one could ever possibly solve in an undergraduate research paper, such as pollution is bad. Yeah, pollution is bad, and that's huge because it covers all the facets of pollution. So you'll have to decide, is it specific and manageable? Is it a claim of fact, or is it a should statement, right? We've talked about this all semester. You really need to avoid should statements. Even experts avoid should statements. You don't want to tell people how to live their life in the future. We don't really have a right to do that, but what we can do and do a really good job of doing is proving that something didn't work in the past or it did work in the past based on policy changes, what happened as a result of those. Anytime you say something should happen in the future, you have no idea that's true unless you are psychic. And that would be awesome if you were, and I would totally hang out with you all the time. But I'm assuming no one in this class is. So so you're not psychic, and that means no future statements, no should statements. You can't prove something should happen in the future unless it's already happened in the past, and it has facts as a result of what's happened. So avoid those. I'll have a few of those in there. And then we're not going to have it has an audience in the final, because we're going to assume all the sample ones I give you have an audience. And we're not going to say it's talked about too often, we're bored about it. We're going to assume all the ones I give you are interesting. And then it's not simply a matter of faith or belief, right? It has to be something that is provable, beyond a shadow of a doubt, scientifically. And it is not a matter of preference, such as Ford is better than Chevy. It has to be actually provable that Ford is better than Chevy. So if that was your thesis, for instance, you would have to talk about the specifics of engineering that makes Ford better than Chevy in a certain category, such as the drivetrain shaft turbocharge. So that's what the good and the bad is going to look like for your final exam. I'm looking for it's argumentative, it's specific, it does not have a should statement or a hidden should statement, it is not a matter of belief, and it is not a matter of preference. And in the next video, we're going to go into more detail about what else you'll be doing in the final exam as you revise these poor thesis statements that I give you and make them better, make them workable as undergraduate thesis statements.